What up, homeboys? Check this out for a minute. It rings a bell, doesn't it? Well, this is Road Rash for the Sega Genesis. Chances are you have probably played it before, but you just cannot remember the name. And why is that? Well, to answer that we gotta go all the way back to the beginning. Road Rash is a motorcycle racing game made by everybody's favorite developer, EA.
EA Sports, it's in the game.
Yeah, you can probably imagine where this is going. The first game came out in 1991 for the, you guessed it, Sega Genesis. It was pretty impressive for the time, boasting a 3D racing map on a 2D console. Yes, I know, it doesn't look that pretty right now, but for the time it was groundbreaking. You got no idea how limited the hardware of the Sega Genesis was, and the fact that they could achieve this is nothing short of a miracle of engineering. The game not only has racing in it, it also has hand-to-hand combat in the races. And you may be wondering, that's a little weird, right? It actually wound up pretty fun. The game was an instant hit, and it shows because they kept pumping out these games like it was nothing. In 1991 we get Road Rash 1, and it was set in California and many of the diverse locations in it, like Sierra Nevada or the Pacific Coast, just to name a few. Again, it doesn't look like much now, but let me assure you that it looked awesome back in 1991. There was nothing quite like it, except for maybe Formula 1 racing for the NES, but even then, that game was just a clever use of a 2D engine. It wasn't an actual 3D game. Fun story, do you wanna know why this game has bikes as a racing and not a car? That's actually pretty funny. The Sega Genesis could not render a road big enough to fit cars to race in it, so they went with bikes instead because they are smaller. Isn't that a little funny? Since it was an instant hit, it prompted the creation of Road Rash 2, which was basically the same game, but this time with locations all around the United States like Alaska, Arizona or Hawaii. If you liked Road Rash 1, you're gonna like this game. It's pretty much the same thing, but it has one mighty addition. It has a split screen mode so you can race against your friends. Careful though, it might get laggy. Then we get Road Rash 3, and this one used digitized technology to make their graphics. And you may be wondering what the hell is digitized graphics. They use this technology in Mortal Kombat 2 actually, but basically you grab a dude in a bike, you take a picture of the dude in a bike, and you put it in the game. It doesn't get any simpler than that, dude. Some people like to chastise this game for having a digitized look. A lot of people don't like it. Personally, I like it a lot. This time, to up the ante, we are racing across the world in tracks like Brazil, Germany or Kenya, to name a few. Yes, Kenya. If you fall off your bike in Kenya, a lion eats you, alright? This one is probably my favorite of them all. And that is for something that the Road Rash series is actually known for. A great soundtrack. It's funny how the Sega Genesis had a very limited sound chip, yet so many memorable songs came out of it. Anyway, this is basically Road Rash with a different art style, so there's not much more to say about it honestly. But the story of Road Rash doesn't end with Sega Genesis, no sir, not at all. In 1994 we get Road Rash Cd, originally for the 3DO, which was a failed console, and later it came out on the Sega Saturn, PlayStation and PC. There was also a Sega CD port, but it was poorly implemented, it was super downgraded, it was not well received at all. I will skip it, alright, forgive me. But Road Rash is now running on a system with enough power to make multiple lane roads and even optional paths, which made it more fun. The core gameplay is still pretty much the same though, and this time we get some side features like choosing a set character to start with a different bike and different weapons, each one of them, and a reputation system, and funnily enough, one of the very first cases of licensed music for a video game. They had an assortment of rock music. It's pretty nice. It actually has some music from Soundgarden. A pretty strong soundtrack overall, even though I find the actual music in the races themselves to be rather dull. Another feature is its full live action video cutscenes that were decently produced. Some of them are even funny. Yeah, it doesn't fit the game very well, but you gotta understand this was the time where CD consoles were coming out and having full video on a game became possible. So many companies tried to put that on games as a novelty. Remember when the Wii games made you do stupid motions when just pressing a button would have made more sense? It's the same thing. The game did not sell very well, and that's pretty simple actually. What was impressive on the 16-bit era didn't fly anymore when games like Virtua Racing at the time had better driving and graphics. Even still, decent Road Rash game. If you can get it to run on a modern PC, and trust me, it is not easy at all, you can probably squeeze 1 hour or 2 out of fun from this game. Then we got Road Rash 3D for the PlayStation in 1998. And the driving and graphics were actually pretty decent for the time. The game was a buggy mess though, and the combat, a staple of the franchise at this point, was poorly implemented and clunky. They got more licensed music though, and I actually got a lot of fun from it in my PS1 back in the day, so I cannot hold that much against it, even though it lacks in split-screen racing mode for 2 players, something that was not only possible in the previous installments, but also expected from a racing game at the time. Overall, a pretty mediocre game too. In 1999, EA licensed THQ to make a Road Rash game for the Nintendo 64 called, you guessed it, Road Rash 64. Basically, it looked like this. Oh, and also it constantly struggled to keep a frame rate stable. The music was repetitive due to the limitations of having a cartridge game, and trust me, it really brings down the experience a lot. Overall, not a very good game, I would not recommend it at all. Finally we get Road Rash Jailbreak for the PlayStation in 2000 and it just looks awful. I am not talking about the technology of the graphics. Even though you can probably count the polygons of the people in the game, that's not what I'm talking about. The art style is just disgusting. They made the sky green for God's sake. Aside from that, it's basically the same game we got before, this time with a gimmick 2-player mode with a sidecar. If the gameplay of Road Rash CD back in 1994 was already outdated for the time, you cannot expect a game that is exactly the same 6 years later to do any better, dude. And that's the reason we don't have any Road Rash games anymore. Road Rash was impressive for the Genesis days, of course, absolutely. But after that they became the Nickelback of racing games. They just were okay. They never strive for something new, they never strive for something better, they never tried to improve anything, and they never replicated their initial success. EA executives have answered in the past that they haven't forgotten about Road Rash, but they haven't shown any interest in reviving it either. They never tried, they failed because they never tried, and they won't try anymore because they failed. That about sums it up for EA. But anyway guys, the legacy of Road Rash should not be forgotten, and you can still get a lot of fun from them to this day. So, by the way, some of the footage I used for these games is not mine. It was made by different speedrunners. The Road Rash community stays alive mostly thanks to speedrunners, so please go show these guys some love, they deserve it. Links to the original runners and their forums on speedrun.com is on the description. If you like this video, please subscribe and hit the notification bell, for we got a lot more coming. And remember guys, drive with your helmet on, eat your vegetables, and do not hit the police with a baseball bat, that's just mean.